Welcome to ABA Generalized, the podcast where we will bring a positive view to the world of applied behavior analysis.
We are your hosts, Erica, G, and Ann, here to share inspiring stories, practical tips, and share some of the latest research to help you thrive in your ABA practice.
Whether you're a seasoned professional, a student, or just curious about ABA, our goal is to spread positivity, foster a supportive community, and empower you to make a meaningful difference.
Every Monday, we'll dive into topics ranging from success stories to self-care strategies and professional growth.
Plus, we'll be featuring interviews with leading experts and real-life heroes in the field who are making an impact with their positive approach.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at ABA Generalized the pod and send us your thoughts, questions, or success stories to aba.generalized.podcast@gmail.com. Also, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.
So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and join us for today's episode of ABA Generalized.
Hello again. So today's episode, we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about shaping, fading, and chaining. They kind of all go hand in hand. So throughout the discussion, we're going to be probably referencing some things that we had previously discussed as well, such as like successive approximations. I know we had talked about that previously in an episode, I think when we were talking about echoics and even some interverbal stuff, or even actually our man syntax, actually all of the verbal operant episodes that we talked about, we did include our successive approximations. So if you have not listened to any of those episodes, please go back and listen if you are not familiar with any of that information. So this way you're not like, what are these two ladies talking about? By the way, it's just me and Ann today. So I guess let's start with shaping. Do you want to talk about it, or should I?
I can talk about it now that we kind of proactively got our ish together.
Go for it, Anne.
Okay, so shaping, and that this can be used across the board. So think of shaping as you're teaching a new behavior or a new skill, and you're accepting the closest approximation that your learner can make, and you're reinforcing that, like making a huge deal out of it. And then you're still shaping, like you're going to shape what they already know or what they're giving you to as closely as to like the SD or the target behavior is. So in the example that we found, it was like shaping someone to say mommy. And so if your learner just says yay, and, like praising, reinforcing, whatever, giving tokens, and then the next step would be like, okay, let's try to get them to say ma or mama, and just like building on that and trying to get that as close to the target as you can, and then no longer reinforcing the So if they're able to say ma now you're reinforcing that, and you're no longer reinforcing anytime your client or your student says, does that make sense?
But I also think that it's important to also note when we're talking about any sort of like language type stuff, always consult a speech therapist because we are not speech therapists.
Yes.
I do like everything that Anne just said, super on par with like what shaping is. Obviously, you can shape anything. I'm sure that, Anne, you have shaped your husband's behaviors over time, just in general. Like, I think that's
we've talked about this before. I think where like I'll try to put him on extinction, and that episode will come next, extinction first. I'll stop trying to reinforce his behavior, and he's like, why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, I'm trying to like not. I'm actively not listening to you anymore. And it does not work.
I feel like I've discreetly and like unintentionally have shaped my husband's behaviors over time.
Trying to shape my cat for not sitting on the table, and he's doing that right now. Get up.
So yeah, so like you can literally shape anything. So if you want a learner to sit at a table, if you want a learner to join circle time, if you want a learner to work through a skill, right? So like it could literally be anything that is a behavior. If it's not a behavior, do the dead man's test. I don't want to get into that because
Oh man.
I mean, it's so many things like okay.
That is a whole.
The dead man.
We should do an episode on the dead man's test because that can be so confusing.
Yeah, and I still feel like I get confused about like how to use the dead man's test. Obviously, like we all do it. We all have to like determine what a behavior actually is versus not. So basically, if a dead man can do it, it's not. It's not a behavior.
It's not. Yeah.
It's
like it's like a double negative.
Right. And
like that's what I think.
Confuses me sometimes, and I'm like, why did we say like the dead man's test? Why couldn't we do like something else?
I know. And like going back to shaping, I was thinking of like accommodations. So like because I'm in schools, I read a lot of IEPs, and there's an accommodations page, and that could look like flexible seating. So again, going back to like if you want your student to join circle time and they can't just sit crisscross applesauce, like bring them a chair. Like schools have so many different seating options now that can help shape like, okay, well, they're there. Or like even like being at their desk doesn't mean they have to be sitting.
Right.
Like as long as they're attending and doing their work, that's fine. Like, can we please stop pushing sitting? Please.
Your name, like that can be shaped, right? Like while a child or a learner is trying to write anything or spell things, like we're constantly shaping different things that we don't realize that we're shaping, right? And we're reinforcing the behaviors that we want to see. So it's just kind of working through what you want to actually see and determining that, and then moving forward with making those changes, right? Let's see. So let's talk a little bit more about what fading is, because fading and shaping go a little hand in hand. So I guess like parallel to shaping is the word I'm looking for, would be maybe even perpendicular, because they kind of just, anyways, fading.
Maybe on the continuum. So like shaping, you start on one end, and is this going to be reversed when we upload? I don't know what side to start on, but like shaping's on one end. You're shaping a behavior, bam, you got the behavior you're looking for, or the goal or the target you're looking for. And with whatever prompting you use, now you're going to fade out that prompting to get that kid or adult or whoever to independently emit that response.
Right. So it just bam. And increases independence is what my brain was trying to get to at one point or another. Thanks, Anne. I appreciate your assistance. But working through, right, like increasing independence for our learners. So for example, I don't know, we help with like cutting paper. Well, child needs to sit on your lap and cut paper. Cool, great, love it. You're gonna sit a little bit further back. You're gonna sit a little bit further back and move in, until you're not hand over hand, or even like having the child sit on your lap. Or if you want to think about it in another way, like if you're in a school, right? We want to make it so that you're not dependent upon us. So the more we start to fade back and provide less prompting that is right next to you, that's fading. We're building that independence. We're increasing the ability for a learner to do things literally by themselves. That's the end goal for
That's the key, because prompt dependency is so hard to break. So it's
prompt dependency. Can we just like talk about that for a second? Like if you don't put in the proper fading procedures, or like prompt fading in general, or not recognize when your learner is starting to like show signs of being able to do things by themselves, they will become dependent upon your prompting. 1,000%. And then they expect it every single time. And then they expect it, the kiddos that generalize really well will start doing it across the board, and they will do it with like everyone. So it just becomes such a spiral. So try and like use least to most prompting as much as possible, or like, you know, increasing the child's independence versus like increasing their dependence, right? Like, it's the last thing that any of us want. Like, I don't want to, like, I love all my clients, like, don't get me wrong, but I do not want to be with them forever. Like, I will not be going to college with them. I will not be going to their job with them. Like, no.
Our goal is to work ourselves out of the job.
Yes.
We want them to not want us.
Correct. And like continuing to build those skills, like those school skill readiness, or not, oh my gosh, school readiness, is that the word I'm looking for?
School
Like
readiness,
any of like those type of skills to like ensure that they're ready to like move up and keep moving. And words. Okay, I'm done talking for a minute.
No, I think I know what you're talking about. Like I do see this a lot in schools when I know specific kids who like know how to write their name or like know how to write sight words, but I'm still seeing aides like hand over hand writing. It's like, what are you doing? And then I have like on the reverse where, so like it's different when you know that kid knows that skill. There's a difference when you know that kid knows the skill and when they're engaging in behavior to get out, to escape. Okay. So, and this is what I was trying to explain to somebody like a week or two ago, because I told them, I was like, I did end up doing hand over hand to get the task done so that they could meet reinforcement. Yes, I know they know how to do it. And I did least to most prompting and starting to escalate. So I was like, okay, look, we're going to do one line. Like it was literally just coloring. I was like, I don't care if there's a dot on this paper. Like if this is the center and this is the expectation, like that was more along the lines of, we're still going to follow through with the demand so that they can learn. Like, that's not how you get escape. And then I was like, all right, here, line. And then I was like, perfect, you can go take a break now. Go do whatever, I don't care. Just to make that point. I mean, that's a little different. And then I got a little bit just like question of like, well, aren't we not supposed to do hand over hand? And I said, yes. But in this situations like this, where if the antecedent is a demand, and then they're starting to engage in behaviors to escape that demand, then like quit, like, modify the workload just to get it done.
Always like, if you can modify it to be the simplest little thing in the entire universe for them to just like be done, do it. Like if they're willing to complete it with help, fine. Like you might be reinforcing something else inside, but like at the end of the day, like obviously pick your battles. Like
right. At that time, I was like, nope, we're doing something in the center before you get
like pushing a child to do something that they don't want to do is not okay. It's unethical. It is inappropriate. Literally, like if you can just do something so simple, so minute, like to make it seem like they have done what they needed to do so that they can just go and do whatever, just do that. Don't let it become something like built up to the point where it's now completely aversive. They're not going to want to even touch it in the future. They're not even going to want anything to do with you, right? Because kids associate us a lot of times with demands. We want to still be those fun people, and we want to still, increase those independent skills, but we can't do that if we're forcing kids to do things that they really are not assenting to do, right? Like that's the biggest thing, like making sure that the child is assenting and knowing what that even means. Because like I said, it's just, it creates such a messy situation, and then you're not going to get what you want in the end, which is that fading, that independence skills, the growth. So just being mindful of that as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in regards to shaping and fading?
About fading? I mean, there are going to be times, like I said, where you have to go back in and do some more intrusive prompting. It's not just going to be like, oh, on this continuum, like you're going to have to like fade in and out. It's, you know what I mean?
I was also thinking as you're saying that is like, well, okay, so say it's like when you're using any sort of prompting. So say like you're working through the prompt hierarchy, your child or your learner, is that like, I don't know, for example, partial physical prompting, right? Like you're not doing full hand over hand, you're doing a partial, like you can be like tapping them or like holding like the elbow or something like that. You're not hand over hand. Well, maybe like that kiddo is like just unable to complete that task now and they're having such a hard time with that partial physical. Maybe your original probe of like that partial physical prompting was not appropriate at all and we cannot move down to gesture. Well, you're gonna have to bump it back up to full physical like until they're able to like do it by themselves. And obviously like the quickest you can fade back down, the better. Sometimes our learners regress, unfortunately. Like that is just the unfortunate part of what our kiddos and our learners oh my gosh, encounter. Whoo, the word was encounter.
Words.
I'm so sorry, people. Have not
great podcasters.
I had caffeine today, and I am a big caffeine junkie. So I'm trying to fade and shape my behavior of caffeine. So
I faded in caffeine.
Anywho's, okay, so let's move on to something else because Anne is just making stuff up over there.
Just putting me on extinction and redirecting the conversation.
Pretty good at that. So
that is what is happening.
Let's talk about. I'm done with that.
Chaining.
Not like, okay. No, not like chains that people do or like the Thanksgiving chains or like the countdown chain. Like not one of those like paper chain thingies.
Oh, we did that at the end of the school year.
Not a chain link fence, not like chaining is go in.
Da, 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 da. It's it's like step by step how to teach like a sequence of something.
Look, it's a behavior. It's teaching the sequence of like how to complete a task. So it's breaking down
that needs a sequence. Like you can maybe reorder some of the steps, but there are specific steps that need to happen.
I was actually, so it's funny, we talked a little bit about this at my training that I was just at, and how many people in like non-ABA world will tell you how to brush their teeth in a broken down sequence.
Really?
It's not.
What, did you go around and ask people this?
No, so I didn't, but like my trainer had mentioned, she's like, so I did like, I asked a bunch of people that are not in ABI. I think it's my trainer that said this. She goes, I asked a bunch of people that were not in ABI, how would you brush your teeth? Tell me how do you brush your teeth? People like pretended to pick up a toothbrush and brush their teeth. Okay, like I get that. But for our learners, we need to break down that skill. We need to break it down to grabs toothbrush, turns on water, puts a toothbrush under water, turns off water, puts toothpaste on the toothbrush, or opens cap of toothpaste, puts the toothpaste, like breaking down the skill to literally every single step.
Well, and that's going to look different. So like if you and I both had a toothbrushing goal, your steps might be longer or shorter than mine, depending on where our learners are at And depending on, I don't know, I mean, you and I probably brush our teeth differently,
Probably.
but it's the same, like you use a toothbrush and toothpaste and water. That's for sure. But I mean, the steps they might differ. They might be they might have more detail, they might not. But the point is you're teaching specific steps. My cat is trying to get into a suitcase right now.
So anyone
she can't hear me. Sorry. She's so distracting.
Not watching and just threw a tissue box at her cat. Towards her cat.
So okay, I wasn't throwing it to hit her, let's be clear. She cannot hear, so I can't say, Mimi, stop. So I need to hit something nearby. So she's like, oh, I'm being annoying AF. And she's still trying to get in the suitcase.
Oh my goodness. So anyways, yeah, like you're right. Like my toothbrushing goal might look different than your toothbrushing goal and steps in task analysis and a task analysis is just the broken down version of what chaining is. Like you use a task analysis to do chaining. And so like it all depends on where your learner is at. So in order to determine where your learner is at, and do you want to talk about the 3 different types of, actually, no, there's 4 types of training, but I cannot remember what the 4th type is right this second. 4? Yes. So when we were studying, oh my gosh, when we were studying for the exam, I remember there's 4. There's a 4th one. There's a 4th one. Hold up.
Stop it right now. Fake news.
No. 4 types of chaining.
Stop.
There's a 4th one. Yeah, total task presentation. There's total task chaining, there's total task presentation, there's forward chaining and backward chaining. I was gonna let Anne say it, but now that I remembered that there's a 4th one. So
wait. But this website says task analysis, forward chaining, backward chaining, or total task.
Okay, but like the real answer is there's 4. And I know that for a fact, unless they changed it with the 5th and 6th edition. So if someone wants to like tell us, that'd be great.
Okay, can we just talk about the ones that we know are guaranteed?
Okay, but like
we can make a poll. Let's make a poll and see if anyone can give us the missing link.
I'm done. Okay, so I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, so to figure out what your learner knows and how they know it, that's when you use the total task.
Yeah, you want them to, like, you say, like, okay, brush your teeth, and then you see what do they do.
Right. So, like, a lot of times, like our kiddos know some of those steps, and they're not going to present it right in the moment. But like, if we can maybe see what they do know before we start prompting anything through, we can kind of figure out, okay, do they need forward chaining? Do they need backwards chaining? Or do they need total task chaining? So, Anne, tell us, instead of me interrupting you this time, tell us what those mean.
Okay, so forward chaining is, so you have all of the steps. Let's just use brushing teeth as the example for all of these. Actually, no, yeah, that would work. So forward chaining, you have all of the steps listed, right? Step 1, step 2, step whatever. So the first one is your target. The first step is the target, is the one you're teaching. Okay, so that's the one that you're going to determine what prompt your learner is at. All of the rest of the steps you're doing essentially for them. You're just getting through the steps.
You're not doing any hand over hand for it. You are doing it for them.
Yes. And then once the first step is mastered, you do steps 1 and 2. So they're independently doing step 1. So if step 1 is get your toothbrush, and step 2 is put the toothpaste on. So they can get their toothbrush independently. Perfect. Okay, start brushing teeth. So they got their toothbrush, and now you're using whatever prompt to successfully get the toothpaste on the toothbrush. And then you're doing the rest of the chain for them. Okay.
Literally keep doing that the entire time.
Until you get through every single one. And it's going to take a process. Okay.
Depending on how your learner is too, like with learning.
Yeah.
Pick up the skills.
Yeah. Backward chaining is still using brushing teeth. So let's say the last step of brushing teeth is putting your toothbrush away. Okay. So you're doing all of the steps for them until that last step of putting their brush away. And that target is put your brush away. That's all you're teaching. Okay. And then once that step is mastered, then you go to the last step, which could be maybe turn off the water, or I don't know. Like in my head, I'm trying to think like, what do I, like I rinse the toothbrush or turn off the water, however specific you need to be. So then you would teach that one, and then they would independently put the brush away. So doing all the steps. And this one, so depending on your learner, backward chaining is more beneficial to use than forward chaining if your learner needs that immediate reinforcement of, okay, this is done. Of like, if escape is the function, that's might be getting in the way of this task. Start with backward chaining so that it's like, okay, you put the toothbrush away, woohoo, go take a
break. And then total task. Tell us about that one.
Total task is you're doing total task. I feel like I'm on a game show. That's when you have you have different prompt levels. I mean, some of them could be the same, but you're having prompts, you're teaching the entire chain every step, all the time. Correct? They're doing every step. You're not doing anything for them.
So that's where it's total task presentation versus chain. Okay.
Oh, good Lord. What?
So total task chaining is the learner is taught the entire sequence, one step at a time, with the adult providing prompts as needed. So making a sandwich, right? Child wants a sandwich. We're going to see what steps they know. We're going to provide support throughout to ensure that maybe there's one step that they always miss and they cannot remember for the life of them. Okay, I need to make sure that I put the deli meat on the sandwich versus like under the sandwich. I don't know, like just something silly, right? But just helping them with the steps that maybe they forget. So like making mac and cheese, putting your clothes on. Some people put socks on after they put their pants on, and some people put pants on after they put their socks on. Like, doesn't matter which one, but like also like the steps of it all, right? So like depending on just making sure that you're following the steps and helping them with the steps at the same time. Whereas total task presentation is the learner is taught the entire task sequence at the same time. So what you were just saying, right? That one is the presentation. Whereas the chaining, that's why there's 4, and there are 4.
Listen,
I know it's been a while.
I blacked out. You know this.
It's been a while since we've had to study or talk about any of this stuff. So
and I don't have to do, again, none of this applies to this group.
Right. And I personally, like when I am working with a learner, I'm usually using like forward or backwards chaining. Mm-hmm. I think that I use
I've done total task. The one I was talking about. With brushing teeth, actually. Like there were different prompts for each thing. We were just doing it all at the same time.
Oh, okay. So like the total task chaining. So like where you're literally them throughout. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas the total task presentation is like you're just literally helping them, prompting, and maybe that one actually is the total task presentation that you've done before, because the total task chaining is going to be if they miss steps, you're going to help them when they need it.
Maybe that would be less intrusive.
That one's less intrusive because you don't have prompts for everything. Like it's usually most likely highly independent.
That's kind of like a more naturalistic thing, I think, too. Like, I just thinking about like my 2-year-old and getting like dressing. So, or even like toileting. We're doing toileting, and sometimes he'll get on the stool first before taking his pants off. And I'm like, oh, now you gotta get back down off the stool, and because he has to take everything off. He can't just pull them down to his ankles. He has to take it completely off. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to get all the way down then. And then, so sometimes he needs that reminder of like, you take your pants off first and then you get up on the stool. But I'm like trying to like increase my proximity. So I'll be in the kitchen and we never shut the bathroom doors. I talked about that before. So like I can kind of see him from the kitchen or like hear what he's doing to be like, oh, get off the stool. Your pants are still on.
Oh, I love that. Well, so yeah, so like just being like remembering there are 4 types of chaining. They might have changed 4th and 5th.
Arguably.
Okay, so I will say 4th edition 1000% had 4 types of chaining because I 1000% remember having that in my notebook. I don't have the notebook because I have someone borrowing it right now. So I don't have proof.
Should I find my 4th edition Cooper book?
I don't think it's in the, I mean, it probably is in the Cooper book. I don't know why I would say like it's not. Most likely if guaranteed in your 4th edition, but I don't know about the 5th and 6th. Well, we also don't know.
I don't know. I know someone I work with, she has the 5th edition on her desk.
Okay, so your job is
I got homework.
your homework. But no, we definitely want to hear from y'all and see. We're probably gonna forget to put a poll. But
I'll put one up, maybe.
Anyways.
My cat is going insane.
It's okay. I don't know words right now.
It's hard to talk sometimes.
It's very hard,
this,
especially without caffeine because I'm fading it out of my body. It's not great.
Well, and like just thinking about like if it's hard for us to talk, who we talk all day long, like how hard can it be for like a non-speaking individual to learn how to talk? You know?
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
Okay, so anywho's, that is shaping, fading, and chaining in a nutshell. We would love to hear from y'all and let us know your thoughts, feelings, concerns, or everything. Let us know. But yeah, until next time, I think that's all.
Toodaloo.
ABA Generalized, the podcast, is not providing professional advice. Please seek a professional in your area for specific advice and support.